Hey everyone, another quick tips and tricks to make your R coding life more fun. Today I want to tell you about the datapasta package by Miles McBain. So datapasta allows you to essentially copy and paste data from anything that looks a bit like a table into your R environment using a set of add-in options that you get when you load the datapasta package. So here I'm going to load the package, and you'll notice up in your add-ins tab, you now have options to paste data into your R environment as all kinds of different things. So I'm going to show you 3 use cases for datapasta. First, getting table-like data from anywhere on the internet, then getting example data that you might be trying to mock up from Google Sheets, and then the third, getting a vector of colors from a color palette to make your ggplots really beautiful. So first, let's get a little table of data from the internet. So I have just found on the Wikipedia pasta page, on the right hand side here, there's a tiny table that will be useful for demo. And all I'm going to do is select the contents of this little 2x5 table. I'm just going to use the Command C option on my computer to copy that table. And then when I go back to R, I'm going to put my cursor in and I'm going to make a new object in my environment called pasta. And then I'm going to use the add-ins menu to say paste as data frame. And you'll see that the contents of that table on the internet has now arrived in my code chunk. And all I need to do is run this chunk of code to end up with a tiny table called pasta that captures the information from that HTML table from Wikipedia. So this is a very small example. You can imagine that if you had other larger data HTML tables that you wanted to get from websites, this might be quite useful. So second example, I often want to create a tiny example data set to demo something when I'm helping students. And so often I will create a little data frame in Google Sheets and then use datapasta to get that tiny data frame, demo data frame into R. So let's find my Google Sheet example. Here I have a little data frame that I've created. Again, I'm just selecting the data that I want to paste into R. I'm using Command C to get it copied onto my clipboard. And then when I go back to RStudio, I'm going to create another thing called levels, and then again use the paste as data frame. And once I run this chunk of code, I now have that information about levels and scores in my environment. So if you're wanting to mock up a little data set for a demo purpose and don't want to type it all out, pasting it into R like this can be really fast. All right, and then the third thing that I have just realized is a really good use case for datapasta is pasting a vector of colors that come from a R color palette when you're wanting to use a particular set of colors for a ggplot. So here I have in the R graph gallery, there is a really nice tool that is a color palette finder. And there are many color palettes to choose from. And datapasta is a really good use case for getting the values of each of these colors into R. So let's choose one. I quite like this Benedictus. So we're going to get the Benedictus 13 colors from the Met Brewer package. This download button will allow you to copy the array as an array of strings. So if I copy that and then go back to R, if I just paste that in to my chunk, Control V, it will end up like this, where I'll need to put quotes around each one, which when there's 13 is quite a big job in order to use it as a color palette in my ggplot. But if you, let's create an object called pal. If you use the datapasta add-in, you can go to your add-ins tools and say paste as a vector. And the nice thing about that is that it automatically uses a C function and puts quotes around each one, and even once it does that, it'll show you the colors. So there's 3 use cases for pasting your data into your R environment using datapasta. Thanks, Miles. This is an awesome package.